Hi. So today I was going to discuss what I believe are misconceptions in the real estate market. We were seeing everything on TV and the news about realtors being sued, not knowing that there was different commissions they could pay. Now, I can't speak for the whole country because I've only sold real estate in Chicago and the outlying suburbs. However, commission's always been negotiable. It's always been less or more based on several factors. When the market was really down back in, like, would you say
2009,
2009?
2007, it really took a nosedive in June, I remember.
Yeah.
Because up until in spring, in the early part of the market, everything was still selling like it did for the last 4 years. And then we got this brand new listing in Norwood Park, I remember, and I was very excited about it. And I put it into the MLS, hoping that I'm going to get 20 calls. And we had no one calling. I had to check my phone if there's something wrong with it because no one called to show that listing.
Yeah. So part of the reason where I know we were getting blamed directly for controlling the prices of real estate are too high. We don't control the price of real estate in any way, shape, or form. Best example of that is when the market's down. The example that Ivona just gave, it was priced reasonably based on what the latest sales were, making all the adjustments for age, condition, and square footage, and still no one was calling.
No.
So how are we controlling the prices? We weren't. One of the big reasons, I notice this basic economics 101, but one of the big reasons is the federal government prints trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars with nothing to back it up. And they float it into the economy. Well, I was no economic expert. I'm not claiming to be. However, if you have more and more money coming into the economy and people are out spending that money, then the competition for goods and services, the prices are going to increase because there's more people demanding those goods and services because they have more money because there was so much money printed, which directly affected real estate. They printed so much money that it made the price of real estate go higher because they made the demand for it higher. And in a lot of areas in the country, Chicago being one example, they're not really building new construction. There's no places to build it in Chicago. They'll do rehab,
Well,
like
they'll
gut
knock an
rehab.
old house down, which, in a good
No,
area.
but it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. It doesn't happen often. Is the point? They're not like out in Texas where they're building whole
Entire
subdivisions.
subdivisions,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not taking place here. So there was a gentleman that wrote a book not too many years ago. University.
2005, I think it came out.
Okay, University of Chicago professor. What was his name?
Stephen Levitt, which the reason why we're tying it in is because the market in 2005, so he had to write this book, so he was talking probably about the market in 2003 and 2004 when everything was selling with multiple offers. A garage, like house the size of a garage in Chicago back then, was selling for over 300,000. Now it's like 15 years ago on the Northwest Side we're talking about. And he criticized.
But anyway, his book was called Freakonomics.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And he criticized the agents back then for ripping people off. And the reason that made, so I checked the book out. The reason why he accused the realtors for selling their homes for more money than they sell the client's homes. Sorry.
Yeah, four. So now, when you're selling your house, condo, whatever it would be, property you live in, not all the calls we get are happy sales. Yeah, you may get a call from somebody. It was a starter home. You sold it to them several years ago. They just second child's on the way. It's a happy sale. They need a bigger house. Job promotion, making more money, things like that.
Which they took great care of the home.
Yeah.
They're younger. They
Right.
watch HGTV. They prepped it before they even called us.
Yeah, these are the happy calls. Then you have the unhappy calls, what we call the 3Ds: death, disease, and divorce in real estate. So someone's calling up and it's a divorce, and financially each side's going to be, not going to be the same standard of living. They're not going to be making as much, and they would turn around, and because they need a certain amount of money, if my comparable analysis appraisal doesn't show that, then all of a sudden they're very angry at us. They're just upset because they're not getting what they want. So you have all different situations. I don't want to go over every one, but they're not all happy sales, is my point. So, in my opinion, it's become very easy that the public, every time something goes wrong in real estate, it's the realtors that are screwing it up.
But the lawsuits usually come, or the accusations usually come, when the market is doing very, very well, and we're screwing people. No one takes into account when the market
But be specific.
is down.
When you say screwing people,
Well,
there's no. But be specific. When
Well,
they say we're screwing people, they're saying we're making the prices higher.
yes, we are inflating the prices. But this Stephen Levitt, with the book of economics, he accused us of selling our own houses for more. And I have a great example. Two of our friends, both realtors, were selling their houses in 2009. The market was not doing well. That's a nice way of putting it. The prices were constantly falling. If you sold a house and the appraiser came out a week later, he would not or she would not appraise it for the price you sold it at, because the prices in that week went down again.
Mm-hmm.
So your deal would fall apart more than likely, and then your seller, desperate to sell, would make a price adjustment, and you would sell it again, and another appraiser would come out, and the same thing would happen. So no one looks at these situations. We are just being accused of selling our houses for more, a market, whatever the market was. In 2009, it was not good. Two of our friends, like I said, realtors, were selling their homes. This is what they did, which the rest of the public was not willing to do many times. And this is why their homes did not sell, or they did not sell for as much. Our friends took months to prep their homes. Anything that needed painting was painted. Anything that needed to be caulked was caulked. Everything was cleaned. Clutter was removed. Closets were perfect. House was decorated as well as they could decorate it. And they knew they were competing against many homes. So what they do? They paid out 3%. Instead of the whatever standard fee is 2.5%, 2% in the area. They paid out more to the co-op broker, to the buyer's broker, so they would come to their home.
So they would push their home
more.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them sold for a decent amount of money for the market being the way it was. Why? Because they did all the right things. Now, most of us do tell our clients what is necessary to do. The clients don't want to do it.
Some do. It's like a cost analysis. So my background's in appraisal, not just in real estate. So I can tell people there's certain things when they have us look at the house, and they'll ask, well, anything we should do. There's certain improvements you could do to the house to make the house sell faster, but they may not necessarily increase the value in proportion to the cost of the improvement. And then there's some things where it does. Now, we don't insist on any of them. We show people when we do an appraisal, like for like, house that's very, nothing's identical, but very similar condition to theirs, very similar condition of kitchen, very similar condition of bathrooms, very similar condition of overall size, square footage. It has a deck or it doesn't have a deck. We do as direct a comparison as we can. And then if they're not happy with that number, because I'll tell you, and they're like, we think it's worth more, then I give them the option, because of my appraisal background, to say, well, if you do A, B, and C, that'll increase the cost by $12,000 to $15,000. It'll cost you, if you could do some of this yourself, maybe $4,000 to $5,000. So you're going to see a profit of $8,000 to $10,000 over what you were talking about without you doing it, if you want to do it. Now, we don't insist upon it. There's a lot of sellers who is like right away when we come in, we want to sell as is. We want to sell as is. that's fine. You can sell as is. As is, a lot of people misunderstand. As is just means, like, so when they buy it and they pay a professional home inspector to make sure there's no hidden defects, and say they find something. Usually they find something in the electrical box, 20 amp wire on a 15 amp breaker or a double tap breaker. My parents' generation, they would do their own repairs, so they may have ran out of outlets, so they didn't have a bigger box. So what did the husband do? He put 2 outlets on 1 breaker. Is it unsafe? Is it against City of Chicago code? Yeah, it's against code. It's a legitimate code violation. So when they would come out and do these things, you would say to them, look, they're not going to ask you to do it because you know we're selling it as is. However, they can ask you for a financial credit to get it done, whether you take money off the sales price, keep the sales price the same, and just offer them a credit, which the title company will cut them a check at closing, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, what you're seeing with these latest lawsuits is you're seeing that these people are turning around and keep saying the realtors are causing the problems with pricing. The realtors are not telling us that there's different commission structures. And I'm here to tell you that's simply not true. We've done all kinds of different commission structures for many, many years. We never said there was a set fee.
Yeah, also, if you decide to sell in as is condition, you absolutely can. I can't make you change your mind. I'll try to explain it to you why you probably shouldn't, because if you do a couple of very easy fixes, you, number one, don't have to sell it in as is condition, and you will net much more money. People get upset to the point where they might not hire me because they don't want to do this. Now, that's fine, except for that is going to cost you. That is going to deferred maintenance is going to cost you. Even in the best market, it's going to cost you, because people are not willing in this market even to do any work. Your younger buyers do not want to do any work. They'll pay you for the house. They want it all wrapped up in the mortgage and in the cost. However, no one really wants to buy a house and put in a brand new furnace right away, a brand new roof, because that's a fixer upper.
Well, the way people are struggling now, just to save enough money for down payment, rent has skyrocketed. Price of real estate has skyrocketed. So for them, let's say they're very well qualified financially for what they make. So for them to buy a house that needs work, and not that it's not livable, but it just needs work, and they close on it, they don't have any extra money because they have to scrape up the savings just to get the down payment to do the work. So when we're talking to people about work that maybe you want to do or don't want to do, people will pay you a premium if the work is done already, and they don't have to do it. They will pay more money for it. And we just simply point that out to you. Now, the people that are unrealistic and want the top dollar and don't want to do the work. So the problem is, so we told them the truth. And now, say your employment agreement with them is for 90 days. And you get very few showings, no written offers, or maybe you get lucky, you get a written offer and it's in the ballpark, but because they think it should be way up here instead of here, we call that being market tested. You were on the open market. If someone thought it was worth more, there was nobody stopping them from giving you the higher offer. So now you're angry and you turn around, and what you do is you say, I'm not giving you any more time to sell the house. But you told them the truth. So now you'll see a week later, 2 weeks later, a different agency's listed it. They listed at exactly the price you originally told them. They made us take it for higher. They let us beat our brains in and test the market and see you couldn't get it. The reason they're comfortable listing it with another agent for less is because they know they were market tested. They know we told them the truth. But instead of letting us benefit from our labor and letting us benefit from telling them the truth, it's something weird with human nature. They can't admit that they were wrong. So they'll give it to the other office at exactly the price we told them. It sells 2 weeks later, and all the neighbors are like, oh my God, that agent's great. That one you hired the first time, didn't know what they were doing. This one sold it right away. So that's just kind of the human nature element of real estate too, where you tell the truth. You show them how an appraisal is done. You'll show them how the adjustments are made, what's market value. And for whatever the reason, a lot of people listen to it. Don't get me wrong. But there's still a fair amount of people that absolutely will not listen to it. And they're going to pick their own number. And then when it doesn't sell, somehow it falls on the real estate brokers that they didn't do a good job. And now with this new, where they're talking about lowering commissions, or the buyer's broker has to bring their own money to make the sale. I just don't see, based on what the definition of market value is, which is getting as many people to compete, I don't see how that's going to work.
Well, that's an interesting point. And going back to people doing work or not doing work, I am going to repeat myself, but we're fine either way. Whatever you want to do with your own house, we'll market it. However, there is going to be cost of doing it your way. A couple of years ago, well, it was more than a couple of years ago, the market was starting to improve. So it was probably 2013, 2014. And we had a client who was in his 90s. Now, very, very nice man. He spent 6 months in Florida, 6 months in Chicago. But he was around 90, sharp as a tack. But he got to the age where he was tired of traveling back and forth, and he just wanted to stay in Florida. So he came up to Chicago and wanted to put his house up on the market. And we tried to net him, because even though the market was slowly improving, it wasn't doing great. And we tried to have him net more money. So we told him the easy improvements he could do to his home in order to probably net 10, 15,000 more, but more importantly, to sell quicker, because he had carpeting everything. The carpeting was in every room, except the kitchen. The carpeting wasn't dirty. It wasn't really old. It's just that people prefer hardwood floors right now. And we gave him a couple of hardwood floor people to talk to. And I got a call 2 days later, and he did talk to one of the contractors. And he called me and he said, "You know what, Ivana, at my age, what am I gonna do with 10 or 15,000 more? I don't really want to go through this, moving all my furniture, moving it to the garage, he says, it's too big of a pain for me.
It wasn't worth the trouble then.
It wasn't worth the trouble because of his age." And I didn't argue. I understood him, but he was willing to take less money. He understood this is going to have an effect on his sales price, and he was fine with it. It was his choice. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have it, I'm not doing anything, but I want to sell more than my neighbor who just sold next door, who had everything done to their house, including a brand new remodeled kitchen and a brand new bathroom.
Well, but this ties into the book Freakonomics when he said that real estate agents get money for their own properties. Yes, because we know, as we just explained to you, we know the things you can do and get a higher value. And in our case, we're willing to do it because we know the return we get. So because we've hired ourselves, there's no one to argue with us to do it or not do it. And in his book, he never interviews one real estate broker, never interviews anybody that does brokerage or appraisal, because he would have grasped that the more people that are aware the house is for sale and the more that's done to the house, that's what gets you a higher price. And when a seller refuses to do it, that's not on the broker that we've sold it for less. That's the seller saying that I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, most
for whatever
people,
reason.
When they're moving, they're done with the house, done with it. They've been there for 20, 30 years. They got their use out of it. Sorry, but sort of. And they don't see themselves doing this work for somebody else. Their argument is, let the other people do it. Let them do it the way they like it. Let them have the house they want. Great argument, except for that's gonna have an effect on your sales price.
Well, a lot of people are mentally done with a house. They're done. I've seen it. But like I said, like Ivona just said, if you're not going to take the advice of some anybody that's sold and appraised and done real estate for 30 plus years, and you see referral letters, they're very successful. Clients they can call, they're very happy that they were told the truth, that the service was very good. And if you're just going to go against it, or you're going to go with somebody, I don't know, unlike a politician, tells you what you want to hear, and then you're disappointed later because it's not what they told you, then that's one of the major problems, I would say, in any business, not just real estate. However, these people that write these books, they really have no clue because they don't do it for a living and how all those things work. And then they write a book, and because they're a professor from the University of Chicago, they're like, oh my God, this guy's so smart. He knows all that. I would have loved to have been on a stage with him and went back and forth because I think I could have eviscerated every argument he had.
I
It was in
think
the
you
book.
could, and what because a friend of mine recommended this book to me. Now, like I said, this is an old book already by today's standards, and then I remember reading another part of the book where he pulls up. I'm assuming it's somewhere close to a U of C, and it's a very specific neighborhood. As we know, there is a lot of different. The area has the haves and the have nots. Let's put it this way. Hope no one's offended, but there's a lot of people with a lot of money, very very expensive homes, and people who do not have as much. So he was at the red light, and this is a statement he makes.
It's in his
If
book.
anybody else made this statement, I think we would be called racist, and we would have been called everything else. He pulls up at a red light, whatever car he was driving. I don't know. Let's call it a Honda Civic. This professor, I don't remember what car he was driving, but he pulls up to a guy in a very expensive car, and he assumes right away, without knowing for a fact, that the guy driving it is a drug dealer, and that he can have a more expensive car than he does. And that totally discredited the entire book for me. I'm sorry, but I'm thinking, yes, drug dealers do make more money than a professor.
Some.
Because that's the demand again, right? Supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
And if that's what you want to do, if this is where you want your life to go, you're going to be selling drugs, committing crime, and maybe ending up in prison so you can drive a nice car. Hey, you can do it.
His point was, I'm smarter than these people, and they're making more money than me.
That was exactly his
Same
point.
thing with you'll say in athletics, and they're like, how are all these athletes? I'm a well-trained doctor, lawyer, whatever. They're making a lot more money than me. Well, it's based on what people want to pay for. If people want to pay more because they enjoy that type of entertainment, the money they make is going to be consummate to what kind of money is being brought in. Then again, it's no different than your real estate. You put your real estate out on the market, then everybody's aware it's for sale. They're going to pay what they feel it's worth. And what you're counting on us to do is knowing how to make the proper adjustments so we didn't underprice you and or overprice you. Underprice you, you're going to lose money. Overprice you, you're not going to sell. So that really is our main job. It's what we try and do at our office, and many other realtors try and do it as well. And I think if people understood more that we have to understand pricing and how those adjustments are made, then people, I guess, wouldn't be as disappointed when they hear the number. But even if we show it all to them, there's just some people, they just won't do it.
There are so many misconceptions before we even show up at their door that it's very, very hard to overcome them all in that 1 hour interview when you, 1 hour or so interview when you initially meet your new clients.
That's about it.